the position that the Packers put themselves into, especially keeping Aaron Rodgers as long as they did at the end of the season, you knew you were moving on from Aaron Rodgers. You also knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to have to make a decision after he had to make a run at the darkness, okay? You knew that he was 90% sure that he was not coming back. Not even to your team, but for football. Why didn't you just trade him at the end of the season? If he decides to come back or he doesn't decide to come back, you get as much as you can get back from him, and then you can move on from that contract. And they put themselves in a very bad situation now because, yes, the Jets, I believe, have the leverage. They're no question that they do. But the questions are going to come back, and it's going to haunt them because with Aaron Rodgers and who Aaron Rodgers is as a player, has been the face of the Green Bay Packers for forever. For the last 12 seasons, he's been the face. He is the franchise player. And then what you did to the kid, and I say he's a kid because he's younger than I am, what you did to him was made him feel uncomfortable at the end of the season, not giving him the information, not telling him that you don't want him to come back. You practically were throwing, words to the press, practically telling him that they want to part ways. They want to move on from Aaron Rodgers. They have Jordan Love. They want to see what Jordan Love has to offer. Maybe he is the next future quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years. Who knows? Aaron Rodgers was when Brett Favre left, a Hall of Fame, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Is Aaron Rodgers better? He believes he is. I believe he is. I don't know if everybody else does. But the Packers have done wrong to Aaron Rodgers. They did wrong to Randall Cobb. The only reason why they brought Randall Cobb back is because Aaron Rodgers was pissed off that they gave him no weapons in the offseason last year.
Yeah, they're going to bring a Randall Cobb for probably $500,000.
Christian Watson became a star. No question that he did at the end of the season. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers was throwing him the ball. Let's see what Christian Watson does this year with Jordan Love throwing him the ball. Yeah, well, Jordan Love stepped on the field against Philadelphia. That secondary, and I will say this, that secondary didn't really get put in positions to really show how talented they were last year because who did the Philadelphia Eagles beat last year? How many 500 teams did they beat last year? So we don't know how good that secondary was. On paper, with Darius Slay, Bradbury, and Johnson, there were a lot of good players on that secondary. There was. But who did they play against? What wide receivers that they had to defend against?
It was also garbage time for the Packers, too.
No
They were
question.
down by 21, I think, in that game. So they weren't really playing as tight on coverage. They were playing a lot of cover 3, cover 4. So that's what Jordan Love had to take advantage of. Give him credit. He read the defense well, I guess, but it's still kind of garbage time.
The Jets made the trade for Elijah Moore today and adding a second pick because they're planning to trade one of those second picks for Aaron Rodgers. They do not believe he's worth a first-round draft pick because of the leverage that they hold. And now that Aaron Rodgers has come out and said that he wants to play for the Jets and there's nobody else out there and they don't want to trade within the conference, it really puts them in a standoff against themselves.
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem where you don't trade him last year, for one, when they had the most value possible. And they could have gotten 2 first-round picks, maybe 3. Looking at the Russell Wilson trade, you could have compared that. He had a much better season than Russell Wilson. So if you really cared about the value and the leverage that much, you should have traded him then. Maybe you had leeway to trade him in the NFC at that point. And now you go this offseason in what was a statistical down year. Granted, yeah, not all his fault. The offensive line was hurt. All the receivers were rookies. Fine. Teams are still going to perceive it that way to some extent where you're not going to get that kind of value. And he was lucky if you're going to get 1 first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers at the start of it. Now you say, all right, I don't want to trade him in the NFC. Oh, look, all the NFC South teams need quarterbacks. That could have been a good market to trade for. The Saints, the Buccaneers, whatever. No, I'm going to throw that away. Maybe you trade him to where he wanted to play, the 49ers. You don't want to help an organization that's beating you in the playoffs? Fine. That's your own fault. Now you're going to have to settle for having to trade for a 2 and a 3 probably, and maybe spread out across
maybe
3
a
years
2
of
and a
draft
4.
picks. Yeah.
Maybe 2 and a 4. I don't know if they're going to give up 3 years worth of draft picks. I could see, depending on what Aaron Rodgers does to the Jets in the first year, they could turn a 3 or a 4 next year into a 2 or maybe a 1. I don't think the Jets are willing to give up their first pick even next year. I don't think they think because Aaron Rodgers is 39 years old and you don't know if he's going to play multiple years. As he said with Brandon Marshall, he believes that if he is going to play this year, he plans, if he plays for another organization, he wants to play multiple years, which means 2 years. So I expect Aaron Rodgers for the next 2 years to be a New York Jet whenever this trade goes through.